This AskReddit user asks, what harmful things are being taught to children? That complaining is the same as not being grateful. Can't count the number of times growing up when adults basically told me to shut up whenever I was complaining about something and that I should be grateful that I was born where I was. Like, sure, I'm glad I wasn't born into some starving African family. But that doesn't mean everything is perfect over here and that we shouldn't try to improve things here as well. I agree. That mindset causes people to become complacent and apathetic with life, so they never strive for improvement. Not just their own lives. This kind of thinking is often brought up in politics. Yes, I'm glad I don't live in a war zone. But no, that doesn't mean we shouldn't change everything here. I personally hate when I hear parents telling their kids white lies to stop them from doing something. Or white lies to shield their kids from anything bad that happens. Like a pet dying. Then they grow up not knowing how to deal with a lot of situations. My parents told me my cat went to Florida when it died. I was on a school trip at a petting zoo and saw my cat's doppelganger and apparently had a freak out trying to reclaim him. The teacher thought I was insane because I kept screaming, "That's my cat, he's back from Florida." Funny story to tell though. As if death wasn't an awful end to any life already. Imagine being sent to Florida instead. Basically all those social media influencers that teach young people that it's all about money and brand names. Good will win. Evil will be punished. There is no karma. Some people will do all sorts of shitty stuff. And be successful and happy. Other people will do good. And will end up with cancer. Good will win. Evil will be punished. In psychology this is referred to as the just world fallacy. It's a cognitive distortion that leads to victim blaming. Bad things only happen to bad people. And sets people up for depression. It's extremely harmful. My favorite saying, no good deed goes unpunished. Doing the right thing will sometimes make others hate you. Be prepared for that. That sounds like decent advice. How is it a harmful thing that's being taught to kids? I don't think it's necessarily bad advice in itself. But it's one of those that often gets thrown around with little to no nuance and results in adults who think people are angry so I must be right. Quote, I think it can also lead to people trying to find opposition where there is none or assuming that opposition to their methods is opposition to their message. Lack of electronics. Then given an overdose of electronics. Things happened to me and now I can't stop playing games. Also, I'm restricting myself now. How to internalize stress and implode as teens and adults. True story. My parents used to make fun of me when I cried. They even created a mock song to sing whenever I started crying. So guess what? I stopped crying. 27 years later. I can't cry at all and I can't tell others about my stress levels without getting upset. By the way, my parents are really nice people. But I was their first child in the early 90s. So they didn't really know how to deal with a crying child. By the way, my parents are really nice people. But I was their first child in the early 90s. So they didn't really know how to deal with a crying child. Parents can be really nice people but in the end, they are just humans too. I don't think anyone can say that they have the perfect parents who never did mistakes. I know a lot of people always say, well, I would never do ___ as a parent, if I was a parent, but then they do something else what is also stupid. Being flawed is being human. There was this one time my sister's Spanish teacher told her off for using vocabulary outside the cheat sheet been given for homework. Their task was to write a short essay introducing themselves in Spanish and use some simple adjectives. She asked me for help, and since I'm quite a bit older than her and know a decent amount of Spanish, I have her a few interesting adjectives and verbs to use instead of dumb stuff like nice and kind or whatever. She comes back after school close to tears and tells me she got scolded for using vocab that wasn't on the sheet. SMH teachers are supposed to encourage learning, not hinder it. right? You do not have to play with everyone. There is a total lack of social accountability. If Laura is always cheating at tag, it's okay to not let her play. If little Billy throws sand in the sandbox, little Timmy does not have to play with him. Laura and Billy need to learn how to play appropriately. My son's preschool has a strict "you do not have to play if you don't want to" policy. No one has to play with anyone they don't want to play with. No one has to hug or touch anyone or be touched if they don't want it. No one has to share their toys or other school supplies if they aren't done with it. In fact, the preschool teacher will go over and referee and say, "Is Bobby done with the toy car?" "No." "Then Mikey, you have to wait until he is done." It's pretty refreshing. I wanted to let you know there are new philosophies, and my son's preschool really strongly teaches body autonomy. Your body is your own and no one can touch it or make you do anything with it without your permission. It wasn't official policy, but we had a lot of discretion in the daycare I worked at. I did almost all the things you listed in the post. Some of it was a conscious effort and some of it was natural. I remember at first seeing the surprise on the 3-year-olds' faces when I said no. Timmy does not have to give you that toy. And wouldn't you know, a week into the routine and the kids wouldn't fight. I think telling kids that you can just walk up and take something because sharing causes more fights. They are tiny humans and they deserve to have some agency. Saying no to unwanted touch. Saying no to other kids who are bothering them and not telling them to get along, and I had the best behaved class. Anecdotal, but I know it mattered. Gosh, I love this. I have a toddler and we're trying to teach about taking turns rather than sharing. My sister is always telling her little boy to share. So when my daughter snatches something from him, I tell her off and that it's not her turn and she has to wait. But my sister tells her little boy off and tells him to share his toys and let my daughter have a turn. No. He doesn't have to share anything. He doesn't have to just give her a turn because she demands it. They generally give each other toys. But their favorites, or the ones they're playing with, don't have to automatically be shared. It's so difficult to have different parenting. If he's mean to you, he likes you. It just teaches little girls. Mostly girls. To expect violence from people who love them. Bad ideas about sex from PN. My PN watching as a teenager was detrimental to my understanding of women. It's going to make me cringe like crazy. And will be immeasurably uncomfortable. But I plan to talk with my 3 boys not only about sex, but how you should behave leading up to sex. The thought of this makes me want to vomit. They're in elementary school now. But that conversation is coming. Yes. There was a thread here a week ago about parents. Why don't you let your kids watch PN? And what I expect were teenage boys were saying how much they need it. I think masturbation has been possible for ages without it. And yes, the sex depicted is far from normal. Don't you dare try to tell me that the triple clit slicer throat FGAS Comfic Destroyer PY Popper 9000 isn't a real position. The lie that life is fair and things happen for benevolent, valid reasons. Then we let them get burned and figure it out themselves. In a nasty divorce, the parents may only talk about each other's bad qualities and the kids may have issues with their parents. Yep. My parents, especially my mom, only ever say, "You're just like your other parent." Quote. When it's something negative. Led to some serious self-esteem issues that I am still trying to work through into adulthood. I see my mom maybe once a month because that's all I can stand her side comments about everything. Didn't realize how toxic she was until getting the distance. Same here. My mom has spent years bad-mouthing my dad while my dad has never spoken ill of my mom. Actually, my dad only has good things to say about my mom and that side of my family. Even after being remarried for 10 years. My mother's constant passive-aggressive jabs and lies directed at my dad's character has caused me to stop enjoying her company. It baffles me that she doesn't understand why we don't appreciate her speaking poorly about someone we love. Then wonders why my brothers and I aren't better sons. If you have a different opinion than someone, you hate them, and that's wrong. Also, people seem to be taught this incorrect notion that every disagreement has to be an argument. So backing down, admitting that you were wrong, or changing your mind are considered losing. It's totally fine to change how you feel about an issue when presented with new information. It doesn't make you weak. Of course, it takes more courage to admit you're wrong and be open to change than to keep fighting a losing battle. Teaching kids not to question things just because someone is older, or allegedly wiser, is one of the most frustrating things that I see on a daily basis. How is a child supposed to ever develop any individual and nuanced ideas if they can't think for themselves? What to think instead of how to think. I love this, and wish it was higher up. I tried finding the study that I'm thinking about, but I can't seem to find it on Google. The gist of the study was that they took two groups of kindergartners. One group of kindergartners was given a type of toy and specifically told that it makes noise. The other group of kindergartners was given the toy but not told whatsoever what that toy does. The group that was specifically told what the toy does only played with the toy to make it make noise. The other group that was not told what it does was able to play with the toy, and found that the toy not only makes noise, but lights up, stretches, etc. The conclusion of the study was that when children are told something rather than letting them figure it out themselves, they're less likely to work out problems and experiments for themselves. I strongly believe this feeds into adulthood, with standardized testing and multiple choice questions. I don't know what an educational system without those types of tests would look like. But I certainly hope we continuously work towards improving a teaching style that has shown to limit problem-solving skills. Edit. Thank you, Tishtok, for finding the study here. I apologize if I summarized anything wrong. It's been a while since I've read it. Edit 2. Here is a link to another comment with different, but awesome, source. Edit 3. Yet another comment with a source for the study. Thank you guys for providing these sources for everyone. Edit 4. A friend of one of the authors of the study commented and linked the clearest version. Link to that comment here. I work with one of the authors of this paper. I showed her this thread and she's super excited that people are interested in her work. She also gave me this PDF link to post, since it's the clearest version. Link. No telling tales or snitching, like how many kids are abused or bullied and won't come forward because of this. That everybody is a winner. No. Losing and disappointments are part of life and they are integral to your growth both emotionally and socially. We have a lot of people who enter the real world who have been told they are deserving of things just because and cannot take rejections and losses in their personal and professional lives with any grace whatsoever. This is also resulting in mediocrity being accepted as a norm cause nobody wants to call out ineptitude, while the hard work and dedication being put in by people who do end up in good positions are being played down. It's a little harsh, but it's true. Kids gotta learn how to lose before they can truly start to win. That's the only way being gracious in victory will ever come about. This is why Pokémon is such a good cartoon for kids. For years Ash has done everything right with training and caring and he's lost the championship. I hated the cartoon until I saw that it helps foster a healthy relationship with losing. Losing with grace and finding the value in it is one of the most important skills. I mean, he at least won eventually. Same with Dragon Ball. Goku had to lose the world tournament twice before he finally won. Even then, he never stopped improving. Being wrong is bad. That's why many people don't change their mind when they were given trustable sources. They don't want to be wrong. Making children hug or kiss someone, usually a relative, that they are uncomfortable with is not good. The child may just be grumpy and/or not wanting to show affection, or their warning bell sensors could be going off and they do not know how to communicate that. Plus, forcing them to hug, kiss sends mixed messages about personal, physical boundaries and affection itself. I've always disliked too much physical contact, and people would always act like it was blasphemy that I didn't want to give them a hug. Same. I was always told, poor. Insert name here. In front of the person and guilted into stuff like that. It's a cycle that I am breaking now. My son is to be respectful, but does not have to touch or hang around someone he doesn't like or feel comfortable around. He also does not have to keep toys that he doesn't play with anymore because so-and-so spent money on that for you. Okay. The money will be put to better use if it is given to someone who really likes it and will use it. I'm a father to 2 girls and I always ask them for a hug. I don't just walk up to them and paw at them. They have the option to say no, and my youngest exercises that option a lot. It's important that they know they have control of their body, and that starts with me. I get a lot of hugs. Don't get me wrong. They're not dead inside. But sometimes, like all of us, they just want to be left alone. Thanks for watching. Make sure to like and subscribe to the channel for more videos.